So we did quite a lot of work on converting those people that stayed into direct bookings next time. Leaflets in the rooms, that kind of stuff. Thanks very much for staying with us. Hope you had a great time. By the way, if you ever come back, get in touch directly, that kind of stuff. So last year we were able to get 49% of our bookings were direct bookings.
This is episode number 51 of the Short-Term Rental Success Stories podcast. Are you an investor that's looking to have your home professionally managed? Go to cohostit.com for more information. Welcome back to Short-Term Rental Success Stories. I'm your host, Julian Sage. This is a show where I talk to hosts about their journeys in starting and growing their short-term rental business. My goal is that you'll be able to walk away with practical information that'll help you become a better host and learn how to scale your business. Like any exceptional host, we all strive for 5-star reviews, so please go on over to iTunes and let us know what you enjoy, as it really helps support the show. If you haven't done so already, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation, to connect with the community. Hey, what is going on, Host Nation? I'm super excited to be back again with you this week. You know what I love so much about this show is that we can get on some of the most unique stories. Airbnb and short-term rentals has changed so many people's lives. And really, it's because of what the power of this business model allows for just regular people like you and I to be able to leverage real estate and be able to make so much from it. One of my favorite new things that I like to tell people is that if you want to retire in a long time, invest in long-term rentals. But if you want to retire in a short amount of time, then invest in short-term rentals. And I'm just so excited to be able to teach people the different models and the different ways that you can invest in this business and how to actually do it yourself. So what John and I are going to be doing is we're going to be hosting a special live training where we're going to be going live for you guys and talking about the different models and how you can actually scale to a 6 or 7 figure business using only other people's properties. So John and I are going to be hosting this training for our early birds. So if you are on the early bird waitlist, you get to join John and I as we are going to be doing a live training and answering your guys' questions live. And this is going to be in anticipation of our new program, the VRM Formula program, where we will be teaching you how to start, automate, and scale your own rental arbitrage co-hosting business. We have a really cool thing in there where we're actually going to be giving a certification. So when you do complete the program, you are going to be a certified co-host so you can manage other people's properties. There's a whole lot of really cool stuff, and we're really excited to present this to you guys. But we also do have a training because we do want to teach you how to do this and get you excited. So if you go to shorttermsage.com/earlybird, you can find out when the next training is. And actually, today we are going to be doing a live training for you guys. So if you wanted to join us, we're going to be doing it today, which is March 5th at 6 p.m. EST. So go ahead and register because it is a limited training. We are not going to be doing this training very long, especially because the early bird program will be closing off. And once the program is available to the general public, we will be raising the price. So this only is for our early bird adopters, where we will be offering it at our early bird adopter price. I'm really excited to show you the program, so definitely go to shorttermsage.com/earlybird to find out more when the next training is going to be available. And of course, today we had the special honor of speaking with Tom Lewis. Tom is a full-time professional tennis coach, and 5 years ago, he was looking for a way to get extra money for his pension, and that's how he got into short-term rentals. Now Tom manages 9 properties, 3 of which he owns, 4 are rental arbitrage, and then 2 are co-hosted units. This is a really, really cool episode, and Tom shares some really creative ways on how he's been able to partner with investors to be able to get those into rental arbitrage units. The things that Tom shares in this episode, I have not heard anybody else talking about. The way that he's able to partner with these investors to be able to get them ready for rental arbitrage, and the way that he goes about it is super creative. Tom also talks about how he was able to get 49% of his bookings with direct bookings, and how his job as a tennis coach has helped him in building a reliable team of cleaning and maintenance staff. Tom is just a super cool guy. There is so much in this episode I am excited to be able to share with you. Of course, if you like my show notes for this episode, go to shorttermsage.com/STR51, or if you like my show notes sent directly to your inbox every week, then go to shorttermsage.com/show notes. With all that being said, on to this week's conversation. Hey, welcome back, Host Nation, to another episode of Short-Term Rental Success Stories. In this episode, I have the special honor of speaking with Tom Lewis. Tom, would you please introduce yourself to the Host Nation and let them know who you are and what inspired you to get into short-term rentals?
Okay, so hi everybody. My name's Tom Lewis. I am a professional tennis coach and was looking for a way to sort of get a better pension sorted out for as I get a bit older. So we started buying and renovating properties, and then just kind of fell into this. Really, we were looking for a way to make a bit more money. I traveled a lot with work, and stayed in quite a lot of Airbnbs and stuff, and thought it was something we'd perhaps like to have a go at. So it's sort of grown from there.
So a tennis coach, and just to give a little bit of pre-context, you're in Leicestershire, England. You have 3 properties that you own, 4 that you're doing the master lease rental arbitrage model, and then 2 that you're doing the co-host management model. From tennis coach to now having 9 properties, scaling up to 13. I mean, that's pretty crazy. How has Airbnb short-term rentals changed your life?
It's made me be a lot more organized. Filled up my diary. Um, I don't know. It's brought a lot of new challenges, which I've actually really enjoyed. It's been a chance to like learn some new stuff and constantly keep sort of delving into how to do better. Some of that's like the service that you provide, and I guess some of that's like the hospitality that you're able to, how you can make people feel when they stay at your places, as well as the day-to-day problems of cash flow management and dealing with cleaners and maintenance crew and all that kind of stuff. Having to rely on a team is a bit more tricky, I think.
Yeah, you're figuring out all the processes that it takes to be able to run, a successful short-term rental business. And one of the things that we were talking about before we were recording was you said you actually went to this thing called the Kigo World Conference, and if you want to tell a little bit about the story of you talking with some of those people there.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. They all kind of kept their cards to their chest the first day or so, and you're having a chat with people, and this one guy in particular that was sat at our table kept asking me about what I was up to, and he said, "Oh, I've got 6 units, and we're in a town centre, and it's a lot of business travel and stuff." And then we're like, "What do you do?" And he sort of said, "Oh, I do like beach villas. So if you wanted to come with your family for your summer vacation, you come and stay with us." And he gave me this little business card, and then it was like time for lunch. So he went off to go and have lunch, and I kind of fired up the laptop and was like, "Let's have a look at what he gets up to." And this villa was like, the photos of it on that gave me, looking at it going, this is a sort of dream Instagram perfect model that you look at. He sleeps 15 on the beach, it's $1,000 a night, like beautiful. And then he sort of comes back, and so I casually sort of slipped in the conversation going, "Oh, I had a little look at your villa, it's beautiful. How many of these have you got?" And he's like, "Oh, we've got just under 1,000." He's sort of like, what am I doing? I've got 6. And yeah, just everybody that I met while I was there was like sort of on that scale of, they'd got 600 properties and 500 ski lodges and stuff all over the world. So it was just interesting to sort of mix with the people on that scale. They brought very different solutions, and the way they thought about solving some of the problems was excellent, because it wasn't always just throw loads of money at it and it'll work. They figured stuff out really nicely.
Very cool. And I want to talk about a little bit about your backstory, about how you even got into the short-term rental space. So you said you were a tennis coach, you were looking, to, supplement your income, kind of save towards something to help you with your pension. And then you started getting into traditional real estate investing. What made the conversion from, doing the traditional, fix and flip style to now doing short-term rentals and management?
Okay. So, I guess we done them up to keep, rented them out on long-term rents. And I guess we had one tenant that wasn't like malicious or nasty. They just didn't look after the place very well. And it was like our baby. We just literally finished it. We thought it was the nicest one we'd done so far. They left, and it left us with quite a few things to fix and stuff. And at the time, we were talking a little bit about maybe we have a go at something like this, some of the more short-term stuff. The big benefits being, it's going to have cleaners in there every week at least. So you keep an eye on people, having to pay up front, no danger of not being paid. Lots of those little reasons made it seem, and the fact that we both travel a lot. My wife works with a company where she has to travel quite a lot. We both stayed in a lot of Airbnbs, so we kind of felt we had a good understanding of what made a good one and what made a bad one, and the things to sort of add in and avoid and stuff. So we said, well, give it a go for 6 months and see how we get on. We got £3,000 worth of bookings in the first weekend that we went live. So we're like, yeah, we'll give it a roll, and yeah, it's just gone from there really.
So that I love hearing the backstories, because you got into it, you bought into what everybody's saying. It's all about long-term rentals and passive income with the tenants, and then you got your tenants, and they didn't treat the place the same way that your short-term rental tenants are. And that's the case with a lot of people that I hear, is like they get these people in, they don't treat the property the right way, and this is something that you put a lot of time and money and energy into, and then they just kind of like, deface it, and it almost hurts. And then when you get those short-term rental tenants, they're in and out, they treat the property a lot better, and you're making a whole lot more. About how big of a difference was it from what you were making with long-term rentals versus when you swapped over to start doing short-term?
So I mean, in terms of long-term rental, we were maybe making, 100 pounds a month after all the bills paid and stuff, which was fine because our goal was just to keep it and hold it. Mortgage be paid off by the time I retire. Then it's a little, pot of money sitting there for retirement. Now we make, like, say, anything from 600 on a bad month to probably 1,000 if you have a great month every month. So it's a massive difference, really, or sometimes 10 times more. So it just really helps your cash flow, which has helped us to then keep some momentum going with getting the next one, doing a bit more.
So you started off with doing, the long-term rental. You decided, the benefits of short-term renting outweigh. You started short-term renting the ones that you own. And then what happened when you started scaling to the rental arbitrage, the master lease model, and co-hosting?
Okay, so all the ones that we do on the rental arbitrage sort of model are owned by friends of ours. They saw what I'd been doing. So one of them is owned by my business partner. Two of them are owned by my financial advisor. They really liked how, we were able to keep properties in really good nick. It meant that they could have a guaranteed investment. They're not going to have any problems with me not paying the rent, not looking after the place. I guess because we're friends, as well as I didn't have any track record when they came on board. We've been doing it about a year. So, perhaps now it's a little bit easier to attract people in. But back then it was just that they knew me and had worked with me, for many years. So that helped a lot. They invested their money, bought the properties, did them up exactly how we wanted them done up. And then just, we signed a 3-year contract to run it going forward.
So these were, for you, it was a lot easier to get into these units, just because these were close friends. When you said that they did them up the way that you wanted to, are these like investor friends, people that were purchasing properties and then fixing, like, doing the renovations so that you would be able to sublease them, or what was that relationship?
So I found the properties for them. They bought them. They were pretty run down because one of the sort of goals we've had with all the stuff we've bought for ourselves was to add value. So we managed to find stuff that was, a little bit below market value. They could spend a little bit of money bringing it up to spec and then sort of almost remortgage it and get their money back out anyway if they wanted to, because they'd made it worth so much more by, putting in a new kitchen, a new bathroom, redecorating it all. We just asked them to do that to the level we'd done our flats at. And so in a couple of the cases, we managed the refurb or helped out considerably with it to help them get it done right, because we've got like a team of friends that are builders and plasterers. One of the really good things about being a tennis coach and working with so many children is that you also get to find out what all these kids' parents do. So you get quite a good list of plumbers, and if they trust me to look after their kids, I can trust them to plaster the ceiling in my house and not mess it up, sort of thing. So we've got quite a good network of people like that perhaps these investor friends didn't have. So we were able to really help them get that stuff done. So yeah, that's kind of how that relationship went.
Tom, you're brilliant. I love that. That is so cool. Man, that is awesome. So you were basically, because you said that these properties were undervalued. So you were out there going and saying like, hey, I don't have the money to be able to purchase these properties myself, or I don't want to put up the cash for it, but I do know people that will. So you would actually do all the legwork for them and then even manage the build out for them, just so that you could be able to rent it out. Is that basically what you were doing? Was that your strategy?
Yeah. That's what we did with those 4 properties. Yeah.
And are you like charging, because if they were purchasing these properties kind of under your management, under your supervision, was that basically the deal? Like you would help do the whole project for them? Did you have to like pay like extra rent or anything like that?
No, I probably missed the trick by not sort of almost selling them that deal that we'd found. But we felt that actually what we wanted to do was grow the number of properties we had. So they were helping us out by buying them because we didn't have the capital to do that at the time. So yeah, we just sort of, I guess we get a pretty good deal on the rent. It's probably a little tiny bit below the market value for rent, so we get a slightly better, rate. And especially now, looking at what people are paying to try and get into that arbitrage market, people are paying way more than market value these days because people have heard about Airbnb, think you're going to make a lot more money. So I think that people getting into it that I speak to finding it much harder because they're having to pay such a high rent that's a big barrier to entry or a big risk, go on your cash flow. So
when did you start doing this model with your investor friends, investor clients? Was this about how long after you got into the short-term rental space did you start doing this?
About a year. We kind of we got a bit lucky, really, I guess. We bought our first property. I got the best deal ever. I mean, I got it so cheap from someone that was desperate to get rid of it. Did it up, and it looked really nice. And a couple of my friends, so one of the guys that owns some of the properties is my business partner on the tennis coaching company. He saw it, was like, this is a great plan for your pension. If you ever find anything similar, let me know and I'll buy one. So just by chance, one came up for sale not too long after, and it was like, well, if you want one, there's one right there next door to ours, so he bought that. And then we wrote to all of the owners in the building where we'd got them. There's like quite a few flats, and a couple of people came back and said, yeah, we'd be willing to sell up. We've been looking to get rid of them for a while. And I ended up buying 3 more all at the same time from one guy. So I got a crazy good deal on him because I was buying 3 at once. And then probably maybe a year after that, the other people came on board buying them because they'd seen how well it was working, and the fact that they'd come to look at them when we first did them to sort of just be nosy and see what it looked like. And then they came before they bought to see how they still looked. And it was like, wow, look, it still looks brand new, like a hotel room. Sort of, you've kept it beautiful. And it's like, well, yeah, it gets cleaned twice a week. We're always in here. It's looked after. And I suppose that's the thing, because you make so much money out of it, you can actually really keep your properties in really nice nick. You're not worrying about paying for maintenance and things because there's always enough money to cover all that stuff. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at your direct booking site and your units, and wow, they are beautiful. I love the style. And you have the same branding throughout all of them, which is really cool as well. It's the darker colors with the black and the white contrast. It's got this very this very polished, very clean look. Are these all within like the same building, or are these a lot of different units?
Most of the ones on that site are all in the same building. So we've tried to, I guess the long-term plan for me would be to gradually just buy the whole building. So every time one's come up for sale since, we've tried to buy it or we have bought it. I'm currently negotiating on 2 more, which would, be ones we would own rather than do through management and stuff. So.
No, with your the clients that are purchasing these properties, and then you're just doing a long-term lease with them, did they not see like the profits that you were making and say, hey, well, instead of you just renting it, can you manage it for me? I'll pay for the furnishing and do that? Or was that not something that they were interested in?
It wasn't something that was probably on my radar at the time, and I think they're quite happy with the way it's going. Perhaps if they bought more going forwards, they would want that management model. But obviously, if they take that on, then they also take on a fair chunk of risk. The way they're doing it at the moment, there's not really any financial risk to them. They're getting the market rent for a long-term rent there, so their mortgage is paid. They've got nothing else to pay out or worry about. So they've got a bit of security. And I guess the reason they wanted me to work with them and do that was that they didn't have time. It wasn't that they perhaps didn't have money, they just didn't have the time to, so my business partner is slightly different, but the other 2 guys that we run stuff for, their brief to us was, look, I don't want a phone call about there being the boiler not working, just if stuff breaks, just get it fixed and send us the bill. It's absolutely fine, but we our day job is so busy, we don't want anything to do with it really. So that was kind of the reason it went that way. So they're quite happy for me to make a bit more money, but on the fact that they don't really ever do anything. They just get paid every month, and that's, easy as that.
And you brought up that there's more people coming into the space and looking at the rental arbitrage model and saying, man, there's profit there. Have you noticed since you started a larger increase? One of the things that you said was that you were able to get a little bit more of a fair market price on your units, and some of the other people that are coming into the space might be paying a little bit more. Is that what I heard correctly?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it's like an education thing. I think people hear Airbnb and think crazy money. So therefore, if you tell them, if I go in and say I'm going to run this place as an Airbnb, then they're very much, oh well, you're going to be making a lot of money, so therefore you pay more than, So it's perhaps that education of going, yeah, but your property will be kept. If this contract you signed with me basically says that the condition it's in when I take it off you is how it will be given back, and it will be reliable for any repairs, damages, or anything like that. We'll fix it all. Um, selling on the fact that it's 3 years with no voids. I mean, even if you don't have any damage and you have great tenants, if they leave every year, you're still going to have at least 1 month where there's no rent coming in. So it covers a lot of those little things. It's just perhaps educating that. And then it's like going, well, look what the worst case scenario is on some of your rentals. Someone not paying the rent and it taking a year to evict them, and you've got no money coming in, and they've trashed your place and you've got to fix it up. It's perhaps showing them the other side of the story of going, well, yeah, I'm taking on a lot of the risk here. Therefore, I should make a bit more reward out of it. But there's a lot more people doing it now. When we first started our first property, there was 5 places on Airbnb you could rent in Leicester. There's now more than 500. So, the competition's a bit fiercer as well. So.
And wow, that's you started, there was 5 when you first started, and now there's 500, you said?
Yeah.
Holy cannoli, that is crazy. And how is that? One of the big fears that people have when they're getting into the space, one is regulations, and then 2 is the competition. So you're saying you're going into these properties with these 3-year-long leases. If you wanted to touch on the regulation, is that something that you're concerned with, or is that something that how do you handle that initial fear?
So the regulation stuff, I kind of figure it's coming. There's no way it won't do. It's just you don't know when. So we have it in our contracts with people that if regulations change and we're not allowed to do this model, that we can give you a month's notice and leave. But everybody I work with I know reasonably well, so I think they see that as pretty fair. That you're like, yeah, you can't help it if the government come in and say you can only do it for 90 days a year. It's not really your fault. You're not, you just got to roll with that. So that's the sort of deal we've got on to help with the regulation side of things. I mean, you comply with what you can and you work around the rest.
And if you're building a business model around this, what are some of the exit strategies that you would have in place if those things do come up?
So, I mean, I guess we've been trying to be sensible with, kind of keeping some money on one side, making sure you've got, you've paid out all the bills, everything that you don't want to be taking on tons of debt and then find that, the business model stops, but you've still got 50 grand debt to sort out. So taking care of all that kind of thing. All of the properties we've bought, we went with several exit strategies. So exit 1, I could buy it, do it up and sell it and make a profit. Exit 2, I could buy it, do it up, rent it out long term, and it still makes a profit. And then obviously 3, best case scenario is I can do it up, rent it on Airbnb, and make a much bigger profit. So that's kind of how we've worked. Everything we've taken on would still make a decent profit per month if it was just on a long-term rental. It's just not quite as fun, I guess, or you're not making as much money, but you're not losing money by doing that. So.
And then the competition, from 5 to 500, people, if they heard that, they would probably think you're not making any money anymore. You're charging $25 a night. What has been the case with how you've been able to earn from when you first started and to where the competition has increased?
So I guess there's a lot of competition, which I kind of look at and go, you could be really threatened by that, or you could go, actually, it means there's a really strong market for people wanting to come here. And then have a really good look at the competition and go, actually, how many competitors have I got? There's 500 homes I can rent, but I've probably got 25 competitors that you go, these guys are offering decent quality. I would stay there and feel like it was a great place to stay. So there's not that many comparable properties. And then I guess it's looking at what level of service you get from the, you know, I think more and more about that as it gets bigger and more people into it, it will become more about the hosts and the hospitality they're able to provide and the service, as opposed to just the, oh, I've got the brand new house. That'll be a part of it, but I think going forward, so having some like longevity in the business is helping. Having a lot of reviews really helps. Having your own website and branding, so if people know that you're not just like one man and his dog renting out his garage kind of thing, I think really helps. And it's just like looking at constantly trying to improve, trying to be a little bit better, setting yourself apart from the competition when people stay. We set ourselves the goal last year of, we tracked a little bit of data for the first few years, but not loads. But we worked out that 83% of our bookings came from Airbnb, which is excellent. But also that you were totally dependent on Airbnb. So we did quite a lot of work on converting those people that stayed into direct bookings next time. Leaflets in the rooms, that kind of stuff. Thanks very much for staying with us. Hope you had a great time. By the way, if you ever come back, get in touch directly. That kind of stuff. So last year we were able to get 49% of our bookings were direct bookings. So it was definitely worth the effort in that regard.
Wow, 49% of your bookings were coming through direct bookings?
Yeah.
Wow, and that was all just from just changing things, putting little leaflets in your units, and having a website and saying, hey, come stay with us. How'd you do that? Is that just because of the type of clientele that are staying there, or is it like a lot of vacation people that come on back to your units? Like how did you do that?
No, I think a lot of the people that come to stay are people that are working in the town. So, by default, you kind of think, well, if you're working here, you're not working here for 2 days a year. You probably come in more often than that. So little things, we try and put a handwritten note in for everybody that stays. Dear Chris, thanks for staying with us. Hope you have a great time. If you ever need anything, here's our number. Give us a call. That kind of stuff. Trying to make sure that you've taken care of a lot of the things that those travelers might want, that perhaps other places don't, so that when they stay with you, they're like, oh, great, I didn't have to think about that. It was just done for me. Perfect. 24-hour check-in, remote check-in, so people haven't got to wait for me to come and let them in, and that kind of stuff. Lots and lots of little things, I think, like the way you word your messages that you send out, how many you send out, what you send out. They're all little things, but they add up to, a great experience, hopefully. So I've just finished reading a really good book called Setting the Table, about the difference between service and hospitality. And that's been excellent. That's made us change a lot of the stuff that we send out and things, because they're sort of like, service is what you should expect, and hospitality is how that made you feel. And they're like, if it doesn't matter how good your service is, if it doesn't make the people feel great about being there. So we've done lots of little things to try and, get that stuff right. And I think that's starting to really pay off for us. So.
Tom, this is brilliant. I love talking with you, because it's to hear the contrast from when you first started getting into real estate and you were thinking that this was going to be some type of easy passive form of investing, and then you got the trouble, a headache, tenant, and then you switched over to your business when you started seeing all the benefits of the short-term space. But now you're running like a full-on corporate housing company. Like, you have this apartment complex that you have multiple units out of. You have 49% direct bookings with repeat clients, and you're increasing the hospitality of your business. How big of a contrast? Like, do you think that people that are interested in real estate investing, that if they are like hearing about all these numbers with Airbnb, everybody wants to get into the Airbnb space. Do you think that those same types of people that are just looking at the hard numbers can actually run a successful business in the short-term rental space without, reading hospitality books and providing this next level service that we're all trying to do?
Yes, would be I think, but I'd probably say you'd need somebody front of house that's good, that wants to please your customers. You don't necessarily have to do that. If you've got the money to keep buying the place and setting it up, then, crack on and get somebody with you that fits that kind of thing. I guess I've worked as a tennis coach 25 years. Well, that's the service industry, face to face with the customer every day. So actually, it equips you with quite a lot of the skills that you need to be front of house staff in your business. What I've tried to, the people I've tried to bring into our business are, like a bookkeeper, someone that manages the cleaning team. I've tried to actually bring in the business numbers organization side to the business, rather than perhaps being that person and bringing in someone to deal with the hospitality side of things. So.
And when did you, because you said, you need that person that if there's a real estate investor who's looking to get into the space, maybe they don't, want to be the actual manager. You also started taking up some co-host property management units yourself. So these are people that are looking at the space saying there are good returns here, but I don't want to deal with the management myself. When did you start adding on that service to your portfolio?
That was sort of middle of last year, so quite recently, maybe 6-7 months ago. There's like a property network meeting in our town once a month that I go to occasionally. And the host of that asked me if they did like a mastermind roundtables, and there was one group that was on building houses, one group on student houses and things. And they asked me if I would chair the table of service accommodation and short-term rentals. So I met someone through that was like, I really like what you're doing. I've been sort of sneakily following you on Facebook and looking at what you've been up to for a little while. I've got a really nice property that I would like to rent out. Would you be willing to try it on a management deal rather than they would have taken the management or a rent-to-rent deal, but the location was a little bit away from where we knew the market. So we agreed a management because we felt it was less risk to us. It was great. They gave us a nice budget to go and furnish the place how we wanted, and just let us run with it, really. So,
wow, that is so cool, and I love what you said there about you weren't comfortable going to that new location yourself if you're doing the rent to rent as much, because it just wasn't a familiar area. But your investor client was willing to take on that risk because they saw the returns. And they just let you basically be the quarterback and set the unit up exactly how it is. Because I'm looking at all your units right now, and they all look, the branding and the style is all the same, which is really nice. And this person, they gave you 2 units?
They gave us one to start with. So they basically they bought like a commercial building. It's a big cafe deli kind of shop downstairs, and then upstairs is this really beautiful big 3-bedroom apartment. And they asked us if we could do something with that. I think they'd had similar experience. They'd had long-term tenants. They'd got the keys back, gone in, and were a bit disappointed that it wasn't as nice as it had been when they'd let it out 18 months previously. So they had it redecorated, but didn't really have any furniture other than just beds in the bedrooms. So they said, we agreed a budget, because we sort of gave them an inventory going like, this is all the stuff we think you need in the place. This is how much we would pay to buy all that stuff. And they were like, yeah, fine. And here's a bit of extra for soft furnishings and pictures and things, go to town. So they just let us get on with that. So we got all that bit done for them and then started from there.
And what were they able to see from a return from going from the long term to the short term?
So I think long term wise, I don't know for sure because I haven't asked them, but I think they were maybe getting £650 a month in rent on the long term. And I think they pay the bills now, so they pay like the electricity, TV license, internet, stuff like that. But I think the worst month we've given them £1,200. And it's been, better than that on quite a few months. So we've sort of talked to them and said, look, we're sure there will be some months where it doesn't hit those, but there'll also be some months where it hits out of the park. So just, keep a little bit of money back on one side so that on the months where it doesn't cover itself, because of the location, it's in a village outside of the town. There's not too many reasons to go there unless you had family or friends but what we have managed to do is get some contractors that we've been working with in the town that wanted somewhere. This place has got great parking. It's really quiet. Not any worries about crime or anything like that. So they can bring their works van and all their kit and stuff while they stay there. It's all secure. So we've managed to get those guys to come. They have Monday to Friday every week. And then we just rent out the weekends occasionally to people that are coming to visit friends and family and stuff like that.
So you're taking your corporate clients who are looking for something a little bit outside of the city and placing them in your co-host units?
Yeah, I mean, this one was a little bit by chance. We were just fully booked when these guys rang up and asked if they could come, but we were like, actually, we've got a place that's 10 minutes further away. But so they were like, I think they were a bit desperate for somewhere to stay. So they were like, yeah, okay, we'll give it a go. Asked them straight away what the feedback was like, and they loved it because it's a much bigger apartment than they would have got in town. I mean, this place is huge, very similar price, and they were like, actually, for where we're working, it only takes like 5 minutes longer to get there in the car, so absolutely fine. So they've loved it. They've booked for like 16 weeks. And then following on from them, we've had another group of contractors take it straight away because I think they'd heard from the other guys. I think the first group was sort of like the guys building it. And then the guys we've got now are probably like the electricians that have gone in after them. So I think they'd recommended it, and that has kind of gone from there. So.
Tom, that is so cool. That is so awesome. Yeah, for your investor client, the one that put up the risk, put up the front, they're making more money now than they were with a long-term tenant, and you're making a good amount of money. How much are you charging? 20% of gross,
we charge 15.
Or what's 15? Wow, very 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 competitive. And that's full service.
Yeah, so we manage the cleaning, all the changeovers, all the guest communication and stuff.
Okay. Wow, that is so cool. So you're making a good penny off of that, and then you're actually able to take those corporate clients that you would have had to turn away because you were fully booked, but you were able to place them into another unit. What's your strategy with taking on more co-host management type clients? Is that something that you're looking to expand on, or is it looking at the rental arbitrage model? Are the returns? What's your thought?
I think going forward, so that you talked about how we're going to 13 units soon. We're taking on 3 more on a management agreement with somebody else. Sort of issues we're fully booked at the moment in our apartments, which is awesome. Absolutely love it. But it's a problem because you have to turn people away because you can't, and that kind of plummets you down the rankings on all the sites because you've got no availability. So we looked at taking on some more units. And I think from now, I don't think we would take too many more rental arbitrage ones on, but we would buy more units for ourselves. And we would take more management ones on. For 2 reasons, really. I guess if all the regulations change and we had to stop doing it, the stuff we would buy for ourselves, we would buy refurb, add value. It would still work as a long-term rental, so it would still fit the pension model. It would just lose a bit of cash flow. And if we're managing them, there's very little risk to us financially. If suddenly we have to stop, you go, okay, guys, that's the way it works. Not much we can do about that. Here's your keys back. Thank you very much. So it kind of just de-risking things a bit rather than having a giant monthly rent roll that we have to find and then not being able to do it. So.
I love it, and one of the things that we kind of teach is this trifecta. You have your buy and hold, your rental arbitrage, and your co-host. And you're basically using that to feed itself. So now what you're doing is you're taking the profits from these arbitrage and co-host units, and you're going to be using it to basically purchase more properties. So your risk is a little bit more 50-50. If the regulations change, you can still throw a long-term tenant in there. You can sell it. With the rental arbitrage, if something happens, you just have to cut your losses.
Yeah. So, like you say, it's all about managing the risk now as we go bigger. We could have taken on a lot more units, but we've tried to grow a bit slower to sort of. I kind of feel like reputation is going to become a big thing for the people left in the market, and so having a load of terrible reviews because your cleaners couldn't manage the fact that you've suddenly taken on 20 more places in a month, and I didn't want all those kind of problems. But maybe that's me. They're sort of perceived problems rather than real problems. It might not happen like that, but we took sort of a slow and steady approach.
And with your cleaners, because I mean, as you're growing, you're keeping up the good reviews. What are you doing with your cleaners as you expand your operations?
So we kind of work with. We found a cleaner that was just one lady that had a couple of her friends work for her. And we've just tried really hard to work with them to sort of, they've been really great, really willing to sort of learn what we wanted, to work with us. They do way more than we could ever sort of ask them to do. They're brilliant like that. They manage, we work with like a laundrette that do all our linens and do all our ironing and stuff. They manage all of that side of things, so we don't have to deal with it really. They get the linens delivered straight to them. What we have done is produce like a little couple of sheets for each apartment, going, right, this is what the lounge should look like with everything where it is, throws on here, pillows on here, plants there, because stuff gets moved around all the time. And here's a checklist for that room of all the things that should be cleaned and what you need to do. And so they've got that for each apartment, and then they've been able to use that with their staff when they've taken new people on to help with the fact that we're growing, to be able to go, right, here's how it's done. You've had a few goes at it. Now you're on your own in that place, and here's the manual, and I'll come back in and just check that you've done it right, kind of thing. So it's helped them to grow their business whilst we've been growing ours. Don't get me wrong, there's still problems. We still have to go in and check quite routinely that stuff's been done the way we want. That's the problem I'm trying to solve at the moment is, I go in and spot check every time we have someone come in. I still find stuff wrong and missing and things occasionally. So it's how you deal with that, because it's a drain on my time to have to go back to the apartments every day to check that stuff's been done right. So
yeah, I think you're in that position right now where a lot of hosts face, when you have one or two units, you can do everything yourself. It doesn't take that much of a time suck. But when you start scaling up to around 5 to 15, now it's like the same operations that you had when you first started don't really fit the same mold. And if you plan on taking that up to another level, it's like, I don't have the time. I can't maintain that high level of hospitality service with 30 plus properties. The same framework doesn't fit the mold.
Yeah. So it's sort of, what we've done in the meantime, because we haven't been able to solve that, is we've tried to solve some of the other things that take lots of time. So rate management, dealing with that so that it doesn't take so much time. Guest communication, automating some of that stuff so it doesn't take so much time, which has sort of freed up a bit more time to be at the apartment. But going forward, I really do want to solve that problem. And it might just be that because we've taken on these 3 units and they're in a slightly different location, that will add a lot more time. And it might be that you actually, some of the money that we make from those units will go into employing somebody to do this job. I won't really be any better off. I'll just be a bit more time, but I can perhaps use that time then to go and find some more units rather than.
Tom, you are brilliant. I just got to reemphasize this. Tom, you're a full-time tennis coach that is running a hospitality, 9 units, scaling up to 13 on the side. That is pretty wild. Could you ever imagine that you'd be managing 5 or 9 units, scaling up to 13 while having a full-time job?
No, not at all. The one thing I will say is that probably looking after all these units is a lot easier than looking after the 600 kids a week that come for tennis lessons. So, it's the tennis gives me quite a nice perspective on, yes, you have to work hard in the apartment stuff, but it's not that hard and it's not stressful most of the time. There's the odd moment where, all right, things go wrong and you have to drop everything. But generally speaking, it's a pretty nice way to make a living.
What has been the most challenging part of starting your short-term rental business?
It sounds really lame, but just getting started, just some of the things that have stopped me from doing it for a long time turned out to be so simple to solve. Just by even daft things like joining all the Facebook forums for Airbnb hosting, getting involved with other hosts in the area. I set up a WhatsApp group for all the other hosts that have in Leicester that I know, and we sort of work together. That's been brilliant for, if you get a double booking and you need to find somewhere else to put it or those kind of things. We set it up primarily for a lot of sharing. So oftentimes I'll get someone get in touch, go, Tom, can I come on Monday? And I'm like, no, I'm fully booked. But actually, I'm going to put it out to my group of colleagues and see if someone can take it. And the deal is that we always give each other sort of 10% commission or take them out for a curry or something as a thank you. That's been quite good, but also really good for, I'm having this problem with this. Has anyone else encountered it? And finding out all those little answers that are little tiny things that kind of stop you from doing a bit more.
Yeah, wow, that is so cool, and I love that because a lot of people think I've never heard that before, Tom, but that is really brilliant. You've taken something where people might be thinking, oh, I've got to just keep everything myself, and you've opened it up to where it's like, hey, if I'm fully booked, I'll give it to my network, I'll give it to my the people that are kind of within my community. That is something else that I've never heard before. What about scaling your business? What's been the most challenging part of scaling this business?
Perhaps getting comfortable with the risk. It's probably the thing that's held me back the most, of the kind of not wanting to go out to a point where I couldn't get out of it. Up till now, if things had gone wrong or we'd had to pay out for massive bills or something, we could always do it. Whereas it's getting to a stage where you go, actually, it's now kind of got to work, because if it doesn't, I couldn't buy my way out of trouble. I would have to make it right. So that element of that attitude towards taking those steps, having to rely on other people, I've found a little bit difficult. Like if a boiler breaks and I need someone to come out, you need them to come out now. It's not like, oh yeah, you come on Monday, that's fine. It's no like, when can you be here today? So that kind of stuff's been challenging to build the right team up around you for that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like anybody, you have good days and you have bad days, and you just have to try and keep going. Just do a bit more and do a bit more. And I don't know whose quote it was, but I absolutely loved it. Yeah, and it just said, the rule is you go as far as you can see, and when you get there, you'll always be able to see a bit further. And so it's been getting this attitude of, when I get stuck with something, it's like, well, do as much of it as you can and then see what it still looks like. And you always figure it out. You always just get through enough to do that. And it might be that other people help you, or it might be that you get so far and you go, that's how you do it, I'll just carry on. So,
And is there anything that you include in your rentals that saves you time and money? Like, are there any tools that you use that you recommend, or like any particular like a quick drying towel or something someone might bring up?
No, nothing really. Nothing I don't think that would be obvious. We've got cupboards in each apartment that have like a coded lock on them, so the cleaners can leave linens and towels and all the changeover stuff in there that the guests can't necessarily get at. But having them with coded locks, so that if someone checks in at 11 o'clock at night and they ring me up and they're like, oh, there's, I don't know, there's not enough towels left out, or there's a mark on the bedding, you can almost be like, okay, sorry about that. Well, there's brand new stuff in the cupboard. Help yourself. Doesn't need somebody to go out and have keys and deal with all that kind of stuff. We've had coded locks on all of the apartment. So, like the handyman, the cleaners, anyone in my team can get into all the units without having to come and get keys from the office and things like that. That's been quite useful. Almost everything now I've got an app for on my phone, so you can run, with my phone and my laptop, I can run the whole problem from anywhere. I don't need to be on site, so that's been good. But I don't think we've got anything specific where you go, oh, that's been. I think one of the best things we've done is we've put little extension lead in each bedroom in the bedside table with like a 4-plug socket, so people can plug in phone, laptop, all that kind of stuff. We've got all the plugs in the bedrooms and in the kitchens where you can plug a USB cable straight into the plug socket. You don't need a plug, so you don't lose the plug socket to plug your phone in. That's about it, really.
And is there anything that you do to help your guests leave positive reviews?
Okay, so yeah, we the day after they check in, like 24 hours later or the morning later, we send them a message saying, thanks very much for staying with us again. We hope you're having a great time. By the way, we expect all of our guests to, have a 5-star stay with us. If there's anything that's not right or not, please let us know straight away so we can fix it. I think that sets the tone then, that you're expecting a great review because you're expecting to give them great service. And if they don't feel they've got that, then I don't want them to sit quietly on that for a week and then leave and be really grumpy and give us a terrible review over it. I'd rather they told me straight away, because oftentimes you can fix it. So we had some guests stay with us at Christmas and messaged them. They came quite late at night, so I messaged them in the next morning. they didn't like the fact that they couldn't open a couple of the windows. He's got one of our apartments got like ginormous windows, 3 meters high, onto the main road, but you can't open them because of that, because it's pretty scary drop down. But because they told us straight away, we could just check them into one of our other apartments. So it was like, guys, look, here's the code for this apartment. Go and have a look. If you like it, you can swap straight away. So they swapped straight away and gave us a great review because we were able to sort of solve their problem. So I think unless you sort of know that stuff in advance, you can't do anything about it. And it's too late once they've left to then sort of save that relationship. We do that. We send them a guide just before they check out on like how to check out. Hopefully nothing that they wouldn't think of themselves, but daft things like please turn off the lights, turn off the heating, check in the drawers for any belongings that you might have left in the bedside table, that kind of stuff. And by the way, again, thank you for staying with us. Please remember to leave us a review, join us on Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. And that seems to be working. So.
And what are you doing with your corporate clients, the ones that keep on doing the direct bookings? Are you doing anything else to capture those reviews since they are just coming to your website? Do you have like a Google or Facebook group that you're trying to have them like or leave reviews on there?
Yeah, so we have a Facebook page that we ask them to join if they want to. Obviously, they got the option to review on that. It's not something we've pursued lots. We've been looking at maybe we have a Google business listing so it shows up that way a bit more, but I kind of feel like you've got to pick your battles, and you go, no matter how much money I spend on marketing my website, it's never going to outspend what Airbnb or Booking.com are willing to spend. So actually use their site to get your new business, and then when that new business arrives, convert it into people that want to stay with us. And they can use the website almost as like they found it because we showed it to them, rather than because they stumbled onto it on the 12th page of Google. So yeah, we sort of gone down that approach of never going to beat Airbnb in terms of coming up top listing. So why try? I'll just work with them.
Love it, love it. And is there one house rule that has saved you before?
Not so much a house rule, but I think just like things like we don't do same day bookings. So you need 24 hours notice. We don't do one night stays, or certainly not very often. More to fill gaps in the calendar in advance. I certainly wouldn't take like a one night booking on a Friday next week sort of thing. I feel like there's just a lot of red flags. We don't let anyone stay generally that is from the same town, unless their messages are quite compelling as to, if I get a nice message from you saying, hi, Tom, I'm having an extension built at my house and they're knocking the back wall down next week. Can I stay Friday, Saturday, Sunday while that work is done? Absolutely fine. Totally reasonable. If it's like a, hey, man, your place looks great. It's like, need a little bit more information before. So I think perhaps that side of things gets it rather than stuff in your house rules.
No, I think that's brilliant. And I think what you're doing, Tom, everything is just so I don't know personally what you have going on behind the scenes, but from what I'm seeing, you're doing everything the right way. You're setting this business up, and you're not just coming out there and putting a bunch of listings online and trying to make a quick buck. You're scaling a real business, which is really good, and you have all the safety precautions, like you said, you're reviewing all the messages. You have the one no single night bookings, the locals. I think that's all really great stuff. What would you do differently though if you did have to start from scratch?
It's a good question. I think probably the thing I would do differently is almost like have that way of thinking. I think it's Grant Cardone that's like, I don't know whether you've seen his books about 10x and stuff. I really like that idea that if I ask you to double your business, you just work harder. If I ask you to 100 times better your business, then you have to think very differently about how you would achieve that. I think I would do that. You go, okay, right, I'm starting from scratch, but I'm not going to start with one unit. I'm going to start with 6 or 10. And so how's my cleaning team going to deal with some of these issues? How are we going to deal with the volume of work? Because you'll come to those problems anyway. So you might as well just face them head on right at the start, because it's no different solving that problem in a year's time as in you've still got to solve that problem. So you might as well do it straight away. And actually having multiple units in the same location makes things lots easier. It's easier to ride the bad times because you're never going to have all your apartments empty. You might have a couple of them empty over Christmas, but most of them are booked out. Your cleaners like it because they just go to one location, take all the kit, and it's easy. So probably going forward, I'd say, if we stopped everything we're doing here, moved to a different place, I'd be looking for developers that were building like a whole block and go, right, guys, look, I can really work with you to make the most out of this development. I'd go after that kind of market rather than just individual. But I suppose that depends on your location. Obviously, if you're in a nice beach in Florida or something, then probably a very different market that you probably go after. Certainly city centre wise, I would go for a lot of units all in the same place. Somewhere where you can really manage the whole of the guest experience. So it doesn't matter how beautiful my apartments are. If you come into the foyer of the building and there's graffiti on the walls and post all over the floor and stuff that you can't really control very easily. Whereas because we own such a big chunk of the block, our cleaners take care of a lot of the corridors and a lot of all that kind of stuff. And as we buy more of that building and gradually one day own the whole thing, then we'll be able to really make it, absolutely bang on. So
I love it. I love it, Tom. I love that mindset shift that you're saying. If instead of just thinking, how do I operate one unit? How do I operate 10 or 100? Instead of learning how to pick up one unit at a time, how can I pick up 10 or 100 units? And with that mindset of maybe I could even potentially buy out the building. Maybe I can become the mayor of a city. Whatever your grand idea is, it's that mindset shift from not just thinking small to thinking big that is really key. And where do you see short-term rentals going in the future? And specifically, let's say your particular area in England.
I still think it's booming here. I think there'll be way more growth in the industry. There's so many more people coming into the market. I think by default, that'll be a good thing. I think that'll the competition will sort of strengthen the herd because the people that are doing it badly, without doing all the right checks, without looking after their guests, will gradually just go out of the market because you wouldn't choose to stay there, because there's going to be so much choice. I think the regulation that will come in will probably, as long as it's not completely restrictive, I don't think the 90-day rule is the best regulation they could have brought into parts of England. Things on safety and, all that kind of stuff would have been a far better thing because it would have got rid of a lot of people straight out of the market anyway. I kind of think that's the way it will go. So I think the people that offer the best quality products and then the best service will be the ones that stand the test of time. Probably the same as hotels have done historically. The best places to stay are still the best places to stay. I don't think that's always just because they're in the best location. It's just because of the experience that you get when you stay there makes you go back. So that repeat business will be really important, I think, for people.
What question would you have for another professional host? Maybe someone that's at a similar level than you, or maybe that next level where you're trying to go?
Well, first one would be, how do I get someone that's a good housekeeper? Once I've solved that problem, I'll feel like I'm doing a bit better. I don't know, really. I think so much of it depends on the individual in terms of what it is you personally want to achieve from it. So I think ours probably started out as earning more money and trying to, have a slightly better life. But actually, it's now becoming more about, how can I build a business that I'm proud of and that, if any of our friends or family or anyone came to stay would be like, oh, I had a great time. You've done a really great job. How do I provide that on a bigger scale? How do we keep that quality? How do we keep that sort of slightly personal touch on a much bigger scale? So it's probably growing your team alongside your units to keep that going and bringing on board people that are like-minded people, that have that attitude of wanting to do the best they can do, despite the fact that they're, lots of people around here talk about cleaners like slightly in a negative way. Oh, it's just the cleaner. And you go, man, they make or break your business. If they do a terrible job, you're getting a terrible review, but finding a cleaner that wants to do a great job, I've got a lot of time for that, for people that like that, and so building a team of those kind of people takes a lot of effort and a lot of getting out there and meeting a lot of people and trying stuff. And So it'd be interesting to talk to people and say, how did you solve those problems going forward? Or how did you bring people in that solved those problems for you? Because some of the, like we talked about, some of those guys that I met earlier, they've got 100 units and stuff. And well, there's no way you've met all of the people in your team over and over again. So how did you put people in place that would hire people that had similar values to what you wanted in your business? So
I love it. Thank you so much, Tom. And one last thing, being in the Leicester area, if anybody does want to reach out to you, if they have any other questions, maybe they want to join your WhatsApp group if they are in that particular area, what's the best way that people can reach you?
Okay, so there's several ways. I'll send out my Facebook page. If they get in touch with me on that, I'm quite happy for them to have my phone number, WhatsApp group, and all that kind of stuff. So if I just send you the link to that, and then you can distribute it however.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll include the link in the description, as well as your direct booking site if anybody is planning to go to the Leicester area. Your places are beautiful. I really love it. And you're doing a bang up job, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Until next time, everybody, keep on hosting. Hope you hosts benefited from the show. If you found value, please go on over to iTunes, leave us a review, and let us know what you enjoy about the show. If you'd like to talk to hosts that have been featured in these episodes as well as the community, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation.